Despite what people may think based off of my recent criticisms of the Call of Duty franchise, at my core, I'm still a huge Call of Duty fan, especially the side minigame mode called Zombies, that later skyrocketed into a detailed and intricate game type with various stemming Easter eggs and objectives and, at times, an unnecessarily convoluted backstory. Either way, my appreciation for the zombie mode that provided hours upon hours of bonus content to the Call of Duty franchise won't go unnoticed here. Warning, this video is my own opinion completely, it's not a definite list, and leave a comment down below with your list. I do read all my comments, and since this list is in no particular order, I also need to add that before we start, I'm not too much of a fan of zombie maps that have strong and long convoluted Easter eggs. That being said, let's get into my list. Number 15 started off as a pretty close, tight, almost tie between Call of the Dead and Shangri-La, as they are both fun designs and maps, but with George Romero, may he rest in peace, following you around everywhere no matter how much you try to end it, and for me it really just took away from the zombie experience that I had been used to. Shangri-La, on the other hand, had a lot of Easter eggs which I'm not really a fan of, but I also really appreciate the ambiance of the map, and I just like the way that the map worked. Even though there's a lot of tight corners and some really random traps, I still really enjoyed the map, and I remember holding out to a decent level with some friends just camping, but I think this map is probably better suited for everyone to split up and run a train. Either way, Shangri-La gets number 15 on this list. Number 14 on this list goes to Mob of the Dead, which is one of the few that actually made it in from Call of Duty Black Ops 2 for me. Honestly, it was another one that was really convoluted with a lot of Easter eggs, but Alcatraz was really a cool location choice for this map. And it was nice to see a time jump to an era we hadn't really seen in Call of Duty at that point. The ghost mechanics are interesting, maybe not my favorite, but overall I just really love the environment and ambiance of this map. It was also the first zombie game map where we were able to actually complete the Easter egg, which meant you completed zombies. At this point, you usually would just do an Easter egg and survive as long as you can. So it was cool that for this one at least there was an end goal in sight. I myself never beat it, and maybe that takes away from the replayability if you do beat it, but I had fun getting really close to defeating it. I still don't understand how flying to the Golden Gate Bridge and electrocuting yourself is the way to victory, but hey, whatever works for this one. Okay, you guys are going to be mad at me for number 13 on this one, because technically it's not a zombies map, it's Extinction Mode from Call of Duty Ghosts, which was obviously them trying to do something different that could compete with the Call of Duty Zombie series, and honestly, I kind of liked it. I really only played the first one. I played a little bit of the third one too, but the first Extinction map was actually a pretty unique experience I kept coming back to. There is an end and you can complete it, which kind of takes away from the replayability, but I liked the idea of kind of having different classes and having to move forward through a set of areas, and it was a lot more open space, and I thought it was cool how you could set up weapons and stuff. So I'm not going to talk about this one for so long because I'm putting it on this list even though it probably shouldn't be here. But you know what? I liked Extinction Mode. Number 12 goes to the Spaceland map from Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. Surprisingly, this is where I spent most of my time with that game, considering the multiplayer was, you know. But like I said earlier in this video, since I'm not a huge fan of required Easter eggs, I really appreciated how straightforward the map was. The environment was cool, the background music was cool, and it was just a fun time to travel around and fight off zombies, and you could hold your own for a decent enough amount of time without having to upgrade your weapons, but there was a lot of different elements and features and things you can buy and upgrade along the way that wasn't too confusing for someone just coming in. The gameplay and the map itself was really well made and I really enjoyed it. And that's the only one from Infinite Warfare on this list. Number 11 on this list goes to the map Outbreak from Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. It was weird to see a different company try to make their take on the zombie game type, and they did a pretty good job here. The map was basic enough, not too confusing, especially for this different type of gameplay that was going to involve exosuits, and I love the fact that you could upgrade your weapon as many times as you want and get different levels with each upgrade. It just kind of added a new feature, and the fact that you could continue to upgrade your weapon or get ammo as needed added this unique twist on it, and it was a lot faster paced than other zombie games, and it was a lot more about holding out, but there was some really cool and unique ideas here, and I actually appreciated it. And the maps that followed in Advanced Warfare that kept the same style were good, but nothing broke the original Outbreak that came out with that game. Number 10 on this list goes to Revelation, and mind you, with the exception of the remade maps, I am not a fan of zombies in Black Ops 3. It's just not the type of zombie experience I grew up with. It's not the type of zombie experience I played through since I was 13. And while I know a lot of you guys love the over-the-top detail that's put into zombies, for a player like me, it's a little more overwhelming. However, I absolutely loved the references and stuff that were put into Revelation. Being able to go from other iconic maps in the zombie series was really cool, and it added an overall conclusion to the story, which I watched on YouTube. I still didn't get it all, but it was a really well-made map, and I loved how they paid homage to so many other maps. Number 9 on my list goes to Ascension, which I believe has the perfect balance of gameplay and Easter eggs. It has this really cool space shuttle atmosphere building up to something that is coming down the road, and it's really easy to navigate through the first part of the Easter egg, which is required to get further in, but it's not too hard to figure out. There's a lot of different strategies you can try out here, whether the whole group's going to camp together or split up, and they introduced PHP Flopper, which was pretty cool. And I think the monkeys added this unique challenge where you can lose perks, but if you were able to manage to stay alive and defeat the monkeys, you actually are rewarded with a new perk, so it's kind of a fun challenge. And it's actually one of the zombie maps I like to go back to on my free time. Number 8 on this list actually doesn't go to Transit, but actually goes to the side sub-map Farm. Yeah, the farm section of Transit that can also be played individually. I don't know why I like this map so much. Maybe it's because it reminds me of the older days of Call of Duty Zombies when things were so simple and you just kind of were presented with everything first and then you can choose how to strategize. And while there's no pack-a-punch on this map, you can survive for a really long time just off of the guns on the wall and double tap. And it just gave me that feeling of the older simple Call of Duty games that I really appreciated a lot. Plus, it was one of the few maps you could play Grief on, which puts 2 teams of 4 against each other and whoever survives the longest wins. It was pretty cool and was an interesting way to make zombies feel even more competitive. Number 7 on this list goes to Moon, and I know this one's also really Easter egg filled, but it was the final zombies map that was included in Call of Duty Black Ops, and while I had no idea what I was doing half of the time, I found it to be really fun and challenging. I died the first time because I couldn't find the spacesuits, and the other times I played, I was just too busy exploring. It's a really fun map to go through for your first couple of levels, but man does the difficulty definitely ramp up in no time. Still, with all of the Easter eggs and speculations from other zombie maps alluding to an Area 51 or Moon mission, it's really cool that this finally did happen, and I remember playing it at midnight when it came out and having a pretty good time with it, even though I was really bad. Even though I'm still really bad. Number 6 goes to Nuketown Der Toten, and this was the very first zombie map ever introduced. It originally made its debut at the end of the Call of Duty World at War credits, and it's based off of the building from the multiplayer map Airfield. It's simple enough, only having 4 rooms and 3 doors, but since it's quite literally a bunker, players had to strategize what plan for survival they would take. Head in through the downstairs door and hit the random box as many times as you can, then scurry upstairs and hold out as long as you can, or go straight up the stairs and then back down the stairs and hold out the downstairs room, focusing on the enemies that come down the stairs and having the door behind you shut. This zombie mode works so well because it was just a bonus level of the game. It was simple and straight to the point, and players could figure it out and its intricacies quickly enough, and get past the learning stages to focus on the survival stages of the game. And while this was just a small bonus stage that almost wasn't included in Call of Duty, it paved the way for a new genre of zombie gameplay. Number 5 on this list goes to Nuketown. This was the first map not to be a general recreation of a specific World at War multiplayer map, though it may have drawn some inspiration from the map Knee Deep. For the first time, players were taken out of Germany and into Japan, even though the previous map was based off of a Japanese map but converted to German. But players now were required to fight their way through a swamp of zombies to survive. But this definitely paved the way for more zombie maps down the road, and it was really fun. It introduced new types of traps, the Wunderwaffe, excuse my German, a legendary gun that you could just get right out of the box, and it was the first map to encourage the zombie train strategy, which wasn't really commonplace yet. Most of the time, zombie players just camped. Also, it introduced the iconic zombie characters Tank, Nikolai, Takio, and Richthofen, which were actually just reskins of other standout characters from the Call of Duty World at War campaign. Character Tank was a reskin of Polanski, the character Takio was a reskin of the Capturer from the first scene, adding a hat, Nikolai was the character Chernov, and Richthofen was the character Amsel. I don't know, that little bit of trivia really interested me originally when they introduced the game, and I thought it was cool. This also was the first game type to introduce dog rounds, which added fast-paced zombie play that really changed things up and were genuinely terrifying, but it was really cool. Number 4 on this list goes to Verruckt. This was actually the first zombie map in World at War to be introduced as DLC, and there were some major changes. The atmosphere was set in an abandoned insane asylum based off of the World at War map Asylum, and it had this terrifying ambiance surrounding it, despite it having a daytime atmosphere. And since this was just the second map in zombies, I, feeling like a veteran player, was surprised by all the differences they made. Zombies could reach through walls, teams were now split in 2, and doors to open were no longer optional, but mandatory. We had to find powers to reunite the team, and there were a lot of traps that players could use to protect themselves. This also was the very first map to introduce perks and perk machines, and that was pretty cool. They added the first couple of major Easter eggs, and for the first time ever, the random box could move around, which was something experienced players weren't used to yet. The map just was pretty unique. And now that we've said the 4 original maps from World at War, I also have to make a disclaimer that these 4 maps also count for the remakes, because all of the remakes of these maps are very solid made. The games play more or less the same, so if you're playing it on Black Ops 1 or Black Ops 3, it's still a pretty fun time. Number 3 on this list goes to Nuketown Zombies, and I don't know why people hate this map so much. I really love it. It is a train-only map, so you definitely have to coordinate and know your routes on how to survive. And with the perks being random, you're kind of just up to whatever number gets generated and what perk falls from the sky to survive off of it. But I gotta say, if you have the right team and you're coordinating, it can be so much fun to make it to the high rounds. This was the first zombie map I've ever made it into the high 30s in, and it was because we had a team of 4, we split up, we all knew our jobs, we knew where we were supposed to go, and worked together to get everything done. Honestly, I got as far as I did using just revolvers with double tap, and then I later upgraded them, and they were strong even up in the high 30s. But if you don't like this map, I think you need to just get a good strategy together and work together with your team. Sure, there's not a lot of Easter eggs in this one, but it's a lot of fun to play through. Number 2 on this list goes to Kino Der Toten. This was the first zombie map to come out in Call of Duty Black Ops, which means it was the first zombie map to introduce new weapons into zombies. And this map managed to stay true to its roots and felt like the natural progression for what zombies had felt like before and where it was going forward. It was even simpler to learn, which was great for new players who got introduced to zombies through Black Ops, and it had a larger array of options as to what guns worked well for which players. You could survive for a long time with a gun as simple as the AUG, for example, if it was upgraded and you used your master key. It introduced the creepy crawler zombies, which were an extra challenge and kind of annoying, but it was also the first special type of zombie, so that's cool. And while this map came out with 5, I felt like this one was the much more polished map. 5 was good at its core and it had a lot of charm with the presidents and the different levels, but it easily got cluttered, and I never really liked the fact that you could get a weapon stolen. It just seemed to break the traditional strategy of zombies a bit too much for me to really enjoy it, especially since Kino hit it right on the spot. And number 1 on this list goes to Reihe. And I believe that this map is the quintessential version of what a Call of Duty Zombies map should be. Reihe managed to find a map layout that worked perfectly. It had the right balance between open areas and tight corridors, which leaves it up for the group of players to strategize what plan of attack they're going to do. Camp in a corner or on a balcony and hold it out, or run several trains in their own wings to spread the zombies out. Teleporters and Pack-a-Punch were introduced, but they weren't confusing enough where no one could figure it out. There were a lot of opportunities for Easter eggs too, but none that confiscated the point of surviving, and I appreciated that. The Easter eggs were a fun bonus, but that's what they're supposed to be, a fun, secret thing that you do, not something that actually changes the gameplay. This also introduced monkey bombs, and since there was Pack-a-Punch, now there was this huge extra objective of trying to get yourself as set up as possible. And I think this map serves as an attest to time to show how well it was, considering it was remade in so many different variations of Call of Duty. But either way, that was my list for my picks for my favorite Call of Duty zombie maps. There's a lot of other zombie maps that were not included, and a lot of them are pretty good, especially if you're an Easter egg hunter. But if for some reason this video breaks 200 likes, I will make another video pointing out the best Call of Duty Zombies Easter egg maps. But we have to hit 200 likes for that to happen. If you're new, hit the subscribe button and the bell, because if you don't hit the bell, you just don't get notified because of YouTube's new policy. It's pretty sweet. And check out our Patreon at rocketsloth.net, where you can pledge some money and help support this channel. We'll catch you guys next time with a brand new video. Bye guys.